The story begins with the thoughts of a boy about his earlier memory, and he recalls it being incredibly pleasant. At present, he ventures into the abandoned building, hoping to find a thrill that he didn't find in his recent explorations. Frustrated by the lack of supernatural encounters, he leaves the deserted place, yearning for something more. He ponders on traveling to a famous haunted place after getting into high school, but a sudden commotion draws his attention, a verbal fight between two girls. Peering through a nearby window, he witnesses one girl cruelly bullying another, criticizing her appearance and voice while accusing her of playing the victim. Disturbed by the severity of the situation, the boy, clad in a mask, emerges behind the tormentor, causing her to flee in terror. To the relieved girl's surprise, it was our lad who had intervened. Apologizing for his sudden appearance, he downplays the significance of his actions and quickly retreats. Touched by his kindness, she thanks him properly and asks for his name. But he's eager to avoid attention, insisting that it isn't a big deal, and hastily runs off. Running all the way home, he pauses by a familiar bush, reflecting on the sensation of being enveloped by the rhythmic pulse of his own heartbeat. However, this time, it feels different. He's Haruka Kawatsuji, a 15-year-old boy in his third year of middle school. And this is how he would introduce himself. Looking at a bush prompts a flashback to a moment when he had fallen from a window, miraculously escaping without injuries due to the cushioning effect of the bush. The adrenaline rush from that incident had left an indelible mark on him, becoming a driving force in his quest for exhilarating experiences. His mother, concerned for his safety, set the only rule for him in life: no climbing anything that could lead to a fall. Undeterred, Haruka sought to replicate the adrenaline rush through other means. Running and exploring supposedly haunted places became his outlets, yet they fell short of the intensity he craved. Memories of that day still echoed within him, and nothing he did was even close to that primordial sound. The hazy days passed on, with him feeling distant from reality. At the moment he expresses his thoughts aloud, would he ever experience that rush again? 6 months later, Haruka's high school journey begins with hopes for new opportunities. Introducing himself in class, he wonders how long will he have to keep repeating the phrase in every stage of his life. He is taken aback when the girl sitting behind him speaks up, introducing herself as Kisaki Tokano, the girl he had helped months earlier. Her unexpected presence startles him, but he greets her with a shy smile. Later, Kisaki approaches him and makes a remark about the unusual coincidence that they both ended up attending the same school and meeting again. She expresses her gratitude to him by explaining that after his intervention on that particular day, she no longer had to deal with the other girl, and things took a positive turn. While he tries to brush it off, she insists that it was all because of him. After that, during the course of the lesson, they attempt to recruit student volunteers for the library, but nobody raises their hand. While Haruka raises his hand to indicate his willingness to volunteer and notices that Kisaki also raised her hand. Because of this, the two of them unexpectedly find themselves in the position of becoming the first-year representatives of the library committee. Following the statement that Kisaki makes about how coincidental it is, she then inquires about the activities that Haruka enjoys doing. It is revealed by Haruka that he is a fan of anything that is associated with the horror genre, such as scary movies, literature, and video games. Additionally, he reveals that this is the manner in which he initially encountered her, which was while he was traveling to a location that was rumored to be haunted. A remark is made by Kisaki regarding the coincidence of their meeting, or perhaps it was fate that brought them together. The lad is confused, causing her to clarify, but he tells her not to be flustered. Back in class, Haruka is eating, and his friend becomes envious of him and calls him sly because he is conversing with gorgeous girls in the class. While he has not yet had a single interaction with any of the girls, his other friend accuses him of being jealous. On the other hand, Haruka gives the impression of being entirely uninterested and excuses himself to go grab some water. His carefree reaction fuels his friend's jealousy further. Another friend comments that he has been that way since middle school and he had always been disinterested in girls and always appeared to be distracted. Watari voices that he wishes the world to go into flames any time something bad happens. Meanwhile, Haruka, filling water, reflects on his friend's remark, and he supposes that any ordinary boy his age would have been thrilled to talk to a girl as pretty as Kisaki. Yet he comes off as a little indifferent. After school, at the bus stop, he bids farewell to Kisaki as she boards the bus. His red-hair friend remarks that the fact that they accompanied each other to the bus stop goes beyond the concept of simply being friends. Haruka casually explains that he did so simply because she asked him to. Suddenly, another girl calls out to him and asks if he has a moment. His friend is surprised to learn that Haruka even had girls from other schools. He jokingly expresses his disappointment, saying he didn't teach him to be that way. To which Haruka cheekily responds, "I don't recall you raising me at all, Ryuji." Haruka recognizes the girl, and she asks him to talk. They enter a garden and the girl warns him to stay away from Kisaki. She explains that they became friends in middle school and sat next to each other in class. Initially she didn't mind being friends with Kisaki and thought she seemed nice and cute. However, things quickly took a turn as Kisaki started obsessing over her, from figuring out which shampoo she uses and using the same one, to waiting outside her house to walk to school together every morning. Kisaki would also get jealous whenever Rinko talked to her other friends, wanting to be with her all the time and to never be out of her sight. Eventually Rinko couldn't handle it anymore and confronted Kisaki, which was the day Haruka encountered them. Surprisingly, Kisaki backed off from that day onwards. However, Rinko had a bad feeling when she heard Kisaki was taking entrance exams to move schools, suspecting that she had set her sights on someone else. Haruka, maintaining a healthy skepticism, demands proof of her claims about Kisaki. Without hesitation, Rinko exits a series of text messages and missed phone calls from Kisaki on her phone. Not stopping there, she offers to show photos that seemingly substantiated their relationship. Although the evidence appears convincing, he finds it difficult to believe that Kisaki would go to such extreme lengths as changing schools just to approach him. The girl, undeterred by his skepticism, expresses her certainty in Kisaki's capabilities. She goes further, cautioning him that whenever Kisaki claims that something happened coincidentally, it is far from being coincidental. This unsettling revelation sends shivers down his spine, prompting him to question the girl about her motives for sharing this information. In response, she explains that she felt liberated from Kisaki thanks to him. Wanting to reciprocate, she felt compelled to warn him of the potential dangers and manipulations he might face. With a final warning to keep his distance from Kisaki, she leaves him pondering the implications of her revelations. The following morning in class, he decides to confront Kisaki. He approaches her and requests a private conversation outside, indicating that he had something important to discuss. The two leave the classroom, standing face to face outside, creating a nervous atmosphere. After a moment of silence, he surprises Kisaki by asking if she would like to go out with him. This unexpected proposal catches her off guard, causing her to hesitate initially. However, her demeanor swiftly changes, and she asks him if he truly understands the gravity of what he is getting himself into. She warns him that she can't stop once she starts. Haruka, gazing into her eyes that had always struck him as slightly peculiar, experiences a sudden clarity. Despite the warnings and unsettling revelations, he realizes that she might be the one who can make his heart shake with that primordial sound. He thanks her as he can hardly contain his excitement. She thanks him in response, and the light in her eyes shines like never before. When Haruka leaves his home the next morning, though it looks ordinary, he can feel in his bones that it's not. As he exits the elevator door, there she is waiting for him. She greets him warmly, and Kawatsugi ponders that the fact that he had not even disclosed his address to her. Yet here she is. After pondering on Kisaki's psychotic nature and the thrill he has been looking for, he asks her if isn't the school in the opposite direction to her. She replies that she figured when he'd leave, meaning that she did not have to wait for a significant amount of time. A single day isn't enough to figure out his schedule, but he recalls something Rinko mentioned about Kisaki not following her since that day. Now it all makes sense. Kisaki must have been following him ever since the very first time they met. She had been secretly nurturing her love. His thoughts are interrupted as Kisaki tells him that the bus stop is in the opposite direction. Her eyes remains fixated on him as they board the bus, and he appears to take pleasure in the fact that she is able to surprise him in such a way that he is caught off guard. When he finally acknowledges that he is uncomfortable by her staring, she apologizes and admits that she was concerned with thoughts of them being in a real relationship. Haruka is prompted to query about her reason to start dating from today. Kisaki mentions that before taking that step, she wanted to make sure that everything was ready and that she was absolutely prepared. She had one thing that wouldn't make it right to start dating yesterday. Thereafter, she expresses her regret and explains that she is unable to accompany him home after school due to the fact that she has some stuff to do. Later in the day, when Rinko is finally able to return to home, she discovers that Tanako is waiting for her at the driveway entrance. Rinko responds to Kisaki's inquiry about why she is so surprised to see her, stating that it has been quite some time since they last saw each other. Kisaki disagrees and confronts her about the incident that occurred a few days earlier. when Rinko visited Haruka without her knowledge. The moment she became aware of the two of them as she was on the bus, she did not waste any time in getting off the subsequent stop and following them. Suddenly, Rinko understands that Kisaki must have listened in on their conversation, assuming the obvious reason for her visit. But with a sudden change in demeanor, Kisaki expressed thanks to her, informing that Haruka confessed to yesterday before and that the two are now happily dating. Things worked out well despite Rinko's efforts to keep Katsugi away from her. Though Rinko is absolutely taken aback by the turn of events, she is worried that Kisaki may have come to exact revenge. Following that, Kisaki encourages Rinko to calm down and adds that if she had meant to seek revenge, she would have done it. While at Haruka's residence, he gets a call for Rinko. She had provided him with her phone number in case he needed it. The moment that he takes up the phone, she immediately begins yelling at him, asking him why he chose to date Kisaki in spite of everything that she had warned him about. In his explanation, he states that the reason he wanted to date her was precisely because of her warnings. As a result of her unpredictable personality, he was intrigued by her, and he is of the opinion that a girlfriend like her is the best he could ask for as she gives him all her attention. After a brief conversation, she abruptly cuts the call. With a blank expression, he ponders that Rinko appeared to be rather strange on the call. This is because she made a number of subtle signs throughout their call, such as how she referred to Tokano, and the fact that she asked a question that sounded like it was for someone else. These indicators contribute to the fact that Kisaki is with Rinko, though he doesn't want to believe it. Upon realizing it, he couldn't give the natural response that she was hoping for. Back at Rinko's home, she inquires of Kisaki if she is now pleased with the current circumstances. She knows how he feels, although it was a little unexpected, mentioning that Katsugi knew about her listening. But she's happy that he eased her worries. Rinko remarks that he might have lied about what he said, but Kisaki responds that she does not care about it because she believes that it is true enough for her. Even if it is only for a brief amount of time, she is content to be his first priority. She is simply content with this. Despite the fact that Rinko has no comprehension whatsoever of the two of them, she is fortunate enough to be thankful that their peculiarities appear to complement one another, and that they have found themselves together. Kisaki then suggests Rinko that they should spend more time together because she is the only friend to whom she can talk about Katsugi. As they are officially dating, the brakes are off now. Next day in school, Kisaki asks Haruka if she can come to his place after school, because she wanted their first date to be somewhere special. Both of them ponders about yesterday's phone call. He is a little surprised to hear that, but he eventually agrees. After school, they take a stroll together on their way home, and the atmosphere is thick with the palpable thrill of their first official date. Haruka, who was slightly taken aback but interested, gave his consent, and the two of them then follow him to his residence. They are received by Haruka's mother upon entering the house. At first, it appears as though she is blissfully oblivious that her son was bringing a buddy home with him. It comes as a complete surprise to Haruka that as soon as his mother set eyes on Kisaki, not only is she happy to see Kisaki, but she also greets her as if they were long-lost friends. It is revealed that Kisaki and Yumi-san had become acquainted with one another 6 months earlier, when Kisaki had rushed to her rescue following an accident involving a bicycle. Yui states that she found Kisaki to be dependably helpful and nice whenever they had a chance contact. Their chance encounters had persisted. Haruka is left in a state of amazement as Kisaki acknowledges their meeting's coincidence with her signature worn grin. Her position in the family's good graces is further solidified by the fact that she possessed a pleasant personality and offered real kindness, both of which have won Yumi over. Haruka becomes aware of Kisaki's orchestration of these seemingly fortuitous meetings, which included getting acquainted with his parents. This realization leaves him with a feeling of being tied in Kisaki's tightly woven plots. An unanticipated chill runs down his spine as he thinks that Kisaki might have some degree of control over his mother. When his mother questions about their relationship, expecting that they are only hanging out, Haruka uncomfortably corrects her and reveals that they are, in fact, dating. Haruka's mother had assumed that they were just hanging out. He feels awkward to see his mother show genuine happiness in their relationship and gives him advice to treat her with respect. After some time has passed, Kisaki is exploring Haruka's room with a happy grin on her face. He finds himself pondering whether his place is indeed that intriguing. She remarks that she hadn't been able to access the entrance until today. On the other hand, a cloud of suspicion hung over him as he is able to use the convenient escape given by his mother's request for snacks. This allows him to excuse himself and examine the possibility that Kisaki has a secret objective. After returning with some snacks, he approaches his room with caution and opens the door in a rather quiet manner. As he slams it open, he is able to catch Kisaki in the process of appearing to be guilty. Kisaki is questioned by him about her conduct. She quickly apologizes, claiming that she was mistakenly caressing and sniffing his bed, much to his confusion. She continues clarifying how she drifted in thoughts and unconsciously buried her face into the bed. He voices that he's lost and unsure on what to do as he had never taken a girl home before, but she was now in this situation. In an effort to divert attention away from the topic at hand, she inquires about his typical activities with his friends. While he is talking about playing video games, he had a fleeting glance at his console, only to realize that it is turned off for some reason. Kisaki, interested in his typical hobbies, suggests that they watch a movie together. Afterwards, she is now standing by the door and prepared to depart, is extended a kind invitation by Haruka's mother to return at any moment. Haruka expresses her appreciation for the time that he had spent with her. His mom intervenes and underlines the significance of cultivating memories at their age. Kisaki understands how he feels and leaves saying she treasured every moment, adding that she got to see Yumi-san and showers her with praises. Yumi smiles in return and embraces her, demonstrating that she is truly appreciative of her actions. Though he knows that Kisaki is buttering his mother, but he feels like she truly means it. Following her departure, his mother approaches him and inquires about their relationship, as well as the ways in which they first began dating. There is no sign of emotion on Kisaki's face as she listens in on their chat with an earphone. Following Haruka's explanation of their unique connection, his mother expresses her satisfaction with the way they are getting along. Kisaki can only listen till a distance, but she's glad about the bug she planted in his room that looks like the plug to his console. She thinks today was a success as it will let her learn a lot more about him. As Haruka is clinging to his shaking body, his heart pounding strongly in his chest, he summons the strength to confront Kisaki, who had just viciously attacked him. Beads of cold sweat drip down his forehead. When he asks her why she would do anything like that to him with a shaky voice, in an eerily quiet tone she mumbles, "This is what you wanted," while an evil smile forms across her face. While he implored with her to stop, she approached him in a slow and deliberate manner. At that moment, he abruptly jolts awake, and a wave of relief washes over him as he realizes that it was all a dream. It is that feeling, he thinks. A warm greeting is extended to him by Kisaki, who is standing directly next to his bed. In class, she approaches him, asking if they might eat lunch together. Haruka couldn't help but note how incredibly calm and collected she appeared to be, pondering on what she did in the morning. In her explanation, she states that she had no intention of frightening him, rather she merely desired to observe him sleeping. He reminisces on the devious method she employed to gain access to his room. She arrived early in the morning and pretended that they were participating in morning practice for a physical education competition. Despite the fact that his mother had allowed her to enter his room without any difficulty, he is horrified by his mom's careless attitude. When he gives his consent to go out to lunch, a girl named Sakurako, who seems to know him, but asks to have a talk with Kisaki. A private talk between the girls begin. Sakurako introduces herself and mentions that she was in same middle school Haruka. After Kisaki introduced herself, Sakurako reassures her that the sole reason she is here is to inquire about something. She is curious about how Kisaki became friends with Haruka. The revelation that they are dating comes as a surprise to Sakurako. She began crying, expressing her shock that Haruka had abandoned her and been dating another woman. The abrupt emotional reaction piques Kisaki's interest, and she inquires as to what is so difficult to believe. Sakurako discloses that ever since she was in kindergarten, she had been the focus of everyone's attention, not just because boys wanted her, but also because girls wanted to be her. She revealed that while she was in middle school, she had a goal of making Haruka fall in love with her, so that she could regain her pride. Haruka's lack of interest in Sakurako was a source of humiliation for her, and she was resolute in her pursuit of making him display romantic interest in her. Kisaki interrupts her saying that Sakurako had developed feelings for him instead. His behavior made her realize that she desired to have a man like him as her own. It is hard for her to believe that Haruka, who was traditionally considered to be a late bloomer, could fall in love with a girl the moment he started high school. The fact that they referred to each other by their last names, which Sakurako regards as a lack of intimacy, is one of the reasons why she doubts the reality of their relationship. In response, Kisaki remarks that Haruka has made it abundantly plain that they were dating. The question is pursued further by Sakurako, who inquires as to whether or not they had kissed, hugged, or even given each other presents. Sakurako questions the legitimacy of their connection as a result of Kisaki's refusal to speak. She makes the argument that Haruka had been much more affectionate with her in the past, even going so far as to give her a scrunchie as a present. The news of this revelation comes as a complete surprise to Kisaki, and Sakurako makes an effort to incite jealousy in her by highlighting the close relationship that she and Haruka had shared. Having achieved her goal, Sakurako proudly announces that Haruka had presented her with a scrunchie as a graduation present. Kisaki passes a quiet laugh. The reaction infuriates Sakurako, and she questions what is so humorous about it. With a smile, Kisaki says she's impressed by all of Sakurako's hot air, stating that she was simply amazed by Sakurako's grandiose story and the inflated claims that she made, disclosing that Sakurako had dragged him into purchasing it for her as a graduation memento, which is not the same as receiving a genuine present. It shocks Sakurako that Kisaki knows about it, reminding her that they got to know each other through their first names too. Haruka turned down things he doesn't really care about. She didn't understand how Kisaki could know so much about him since they had just met recently, Sakurako thinks. On the other hand, Kisaki calmly told him that she had been watching him closely the whole time. She voices her doubts about Haruka's supposed honesty and purity. She doesn't believe Sakurako when she said that their relationship was like a close friendship. She wants to get to know him better on a personal level and that she doesn't want to force her ideas and preferences on him. She makes it clear that her only goal is to become his number one, and she would do anything to get there. She leaves saying that the threats would not work on her. While Haruka is talking with his classmates, he receives a call from Sakurako. She calls his girlfriend completely insane, telling him she knew where he was, and that she might have been listening in on his conversations or keeping an eye on him. He answers calmly that he wouldn't be shocked if Kisaki knew about what he was doing, which makes her feel shocked, asking if he's serious. He explains that they knew Tokano might do crazy things when they started dating, but they didn't say it out loud. He says that a silent agreement had been made. Even though Sakurako was mad at first, she eventually comes to terms with what happened and apologizes for bothering him. Her eyes filled with tears as she had been left out. When he sees Kisaki walking through the school hallways, she stops and asks him if he hadn't eaten anything yet. It is kind of sarcastic of Haruka to say that he was about to eat something and had thought about giving up waiting for her. She asks him if she has any specific request for her. He thinks that he would like her to keep surprising him in the same way she did in the morning. But the experience would be very different if someone specifically asked for these kinds of surprises. He thinks that the most important thing is that she comes to these conclusions due to her own wants. He responds that she's fine the way she is. Some guys are raving about Kisaki, claiming that her face is sparkling and that she is even more adorable than she was before. It's a girl's face that's in love, according to Wateri, who claims to know what it is. Being a woman means exuding the warmth that comes from having discovered that one person who is truly special to you. Ryuji inquires of Haruka whether he is aware of anything, to which he responds by stating that they have begun dating. What happened to the loveless Haru that they used to know? He has never shown any interest in anyone before, so everyone is shocked to hear and asks what happened to him. Haruka claims that he just clicked, but Wateri remarks that there is only one force that has the ability to destroy all of your principles and patterns, and that force is fate. Hearing this, Haruka smirks and recalls Kasagi's words. He then mumbles that a lie became a truth. Confusing his friends, they express their thoughts about him being different. Ryuji remarks that it will be a good topic for after-school conversations as he's meeting with the group from middle school. Wateri barely remembers anyone but agrees to tag along upon hearing that a girl's organizing it. While in the library, Kwatsugi is doing his work at the desk. While Kasadi tries to put a book back but struggles, Haruka arrives at her aid. She feels bad for making him do her work, but he replies that they must help each other. She then suggests going to a public library after school and recommending books to one another. It will be a great time. He agrees but tells her not today as he has plans with his middle school mates. Hearing about his plans, she asks if she isn't his number one. He ponders how meeting her has changed him and replies that she means so much to him that he wants to cherish other parts of life too. Her demeanor shifts and she tells him that he's just choosing them over her. He should be thinking only about her, asking if it's so difficult as he accepted her for who she is. She leaves, saying sorry as his friends come first. After the middle school meetup, the gang walks out talking happily. Sakurako notices Haruka's expression and tells him to come to her for anything. He thanks her and just then his phone buzzes, and he receives a text from Rinko. We see Kasagi sitting with Rinko and thanks her for listening, but she didn't have to do anything. Though Rinko has her doubts, she states that she's in a good position to talk about this. Kasagi thanks her in response.
Here I am. Know it's been a while. I was thinking all about my love. Here I stand. I know I walked away. Had to find a person